The map of the United States has changed hundreds of times. Territories were organized. Borders shifted. States were carved out, divided, and redrawn. Every line on the map has a story, and we're going to tell them, one map at a time. North and South Carolina were once a single British colony. On its charter, Carolina stretched the entire width of North America. In 1663, King Charles II owed favors to 8 loyal supporters, so he paid them in real estate, a grant running from the Atlantic to the South Seas. In theory, nobody involved knew how far that actually was, or what was out there. But that didn't matter. The point wasn't accuracy. The point was telling Spain and France, this is ours. There was one problem with the original grant. Its northern edge cut right through settlements around Albemarle Sound. People who drifted down from Virginia and were already farming there. So in 1665, the Crown redrew the line farther north, at 36 degrees 30 minutes, putting those settlers clearly inside Carolina. The border stayed theoretical until 1728, when William Byrd II led a joint survey crew west from Currituck Inlet, straight through the Great Dismal Swamp, dragging chains through waist-deep muck to mark a line no one could see. And here's the detail you can find on maps and aerial imagery today. The old charter anchored the line to Wyanoke Creek, a stream nobody could identify 60 years later. So the surveyors agreed. Run due west, and when the line strikes the Blackwater River, correct it to the mouth of the Nottoway. When they got there, their line was off by about half a mile. They shifted it and kept going. That correction is still on the map. A 1728 course adjustment, frozen into the modern boundary. On this map from 1776, North Carolina's border with Virginia runs west and just stops. Past the mountains, there's no western edge at all. Instead, the engraver printed a different name across that country: the Cherokees. After independence, North Carolina revived the old charter claim anyway, a horizontal band running clear to the Mississippi. And in 1783, the state opened those native lands to sale. Millions of acres, much of it never surveyed, and many of the biggest buyers were the legislators who wrote the law. By 1789, governing land beyond the mountains had become more trouble than it was worth. North Carolina ceded the West to the federal government, and the Cession Act defines the new border ridge by ridge. That's why North Carolina's western border is jagged. It isn't a surveyor's line, it's the literal spine of the Appalachians, written into law. With the West resolved, the state's southern border was facing its own bizarre crisis. In 1804, a miscalculation sparked an armed conflict between North Carolina and Georgia. A botched survey convinced Georgia that its territory extended 12 miles into modern-day Transylvania County, North Carolina. So they simply annexed it, creating the illegitimate Walton County. North Carolina's mountain settlers weren't having it. The border devolved into chaos as locals armed themselves and drove Georgia's tax collectors back across the line. The Walton War reached a boiling point when a North Carolina constable was killed. The local Buncombe County militia had seen enough. They marched in, arrested the rival officials, and collapsed Georgia's shadow government. The final verdict would ultimately come down from the stars. Rigorous astronomical surveys in 1807 and 1811 proved the disputed land sat squarely in North Carolina. But Georgia's cartographic headaches were just beginning. The state simply moved its 35th parallel boundary dispute further west eventually locking horns with the newly formed state of Tennessee over the exact same line. It's a dispute over water rights that is still being fought in courts today. We'll cover that modern-day border war later. In our next video, what happened to the southern part of that massive coast-to-coast grant King Charles handed out in 1663? We'll dive into the messy divorce that split the Carolina colony in two, and how South Carolina carved out a bizarre border of its own.